Greetings, Cleveland, and welcome to Creative Focus, the show that illuminates some of Cleveland's most talented and creative artists across the genres of dance, film, music, theater, and visual arts. I'm your host, Cornell Calhoun III, and I'm thrilled to have as my guest today on Creative Focus, artist and the creator of the Bipolar Butterfly Project, Miss Kimmy Henderson. Kimmy, welcome to Creative Focus. Let's chop it up.
I am happy to be here.
My pleasure. I'm so glad that you got in touch with me. I'm so impressed with the project.
Thank you.
Let's start off the bat. Okay. What is the Bipolar Butterfly Project?
Okay, so I am personally bipolar 1 with PTSD and generalized anxiety disorder. And during my first major manic episode from bipolar, I painted a butterfly to represent metamorphosis and self-growth. And for some reason that I can only attribute to my manic brain is I made one side blowing away. So I shared it and it resonated with my audience and people reached out. I was overwhelmed with response about being grateful and telling me I'm brave. And I realized this shouldn't be brave, it should be normal. And one day I decided to paint a series because it was popular. And one day while painting, I heard a segment on NPR and it had a bunch of terrible statistics about mental health. The one that stood out for me that I couldn't get over is the number 2 cause of death for 10 to 34-year-olds is suicide. I had a 10-year-old at the time and a 13-year-old, and I decided, you know what? I don't want to just make art to hang in people's offices and in their houses. I want to use this to make change for my predisposed children and their entire generation.
So what are the primary goals of the project?
Well, it's to raise awareness and foster community and solidarity. It's to give a voice. A lot of people, the photo opportunities. So a lot of people will pose in front of it and share, and it's just normalizing healthy conversation around mental health that a lot of people are afraid of.
And what are the symptoms of being bipolar?
Well, bipolar is major mood swings. You can go low, you can go high. There's type 1, type 2. Type 1 is more severe. Your manic episodes disrupt your life. I have very high episodes, just like when I painted. I've been hospitalized for it, and it just disrupts your life terribly. And it used to be called manic depressive episode or disorder. Now they call it bipolar, and a lot of people struggle with depression, which is a big part of it, and anxiety and mania. So it just swings from end to end.
And what impact do you want the project to have on the public? And I say that to you because, I had a sister that dealt with mental illness. And, a lot of times there's a stigma placed on that individual, placed on the family. You don't really know how to handle it. I remember kids in the neighborhood making fun of it. There was the Cleveland State Hospital, which was on Turney Road, and people would always make fun about, hey, she's going to Turney Road, that kind of thing. So elaborate on that for me.
Yeah. Well, for me, I've had all positive response because a lot of people reach out to me with stories like that, and they have relatives, themselves, coworkers, bosses, friends, significant others, and they're struggling to deal with it. So it's not just the individual. I'm bipolar. Of course, I struggle with it. I've had a journey, but it affects my family and my loved ones and my friends. And it's hard for me to keep on track, and it's hard to let others help you. And the thing about mental illness in general, if you have advocacy, if you have courage against the stigma, if you have insurance and an ability to pay for treatment, and you don't have to wait months because there's enough hospitals and doctors that can help you. Once you're in a program, it can still take you months to find the right therapist. If you're doing cognitive behavior therapy, it took me several, and it can take months to year for finding the right medicine because there's so many different families of medicine, and a lot of people are on 2 different ones and the doses change. So you have to kind of ride out to see what heals your symptoms but doesn't give you the worst side effects. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So you have to learn and find your avenue about this is working and it's not this awful for me. We're going to stick with this. And that just takes time. And for bipolar people, we have such different episodes and range of emotion. I take a certain medicine when I'm too high, excuse me, and I take a certain medicine when I'm too low. And I have my stable that I'm on all the time. So we're constantly mixing in different medicine and changing doses to see where it's at. So I am so blessed to have the advocacy, excuse me, the advocacy I have with my family and friends. And I know there are a lot of people out there who do not have that. So the goal of this is to raise awareness and help other people, not only people that are mentally ill, feel comfortable addressing it and seeking help, but to help their families realize there are ways to help. I point people into directions of social media groups. You know, there's mental health awareness groups and bipolar assistance groups, and it helps to hear stories of what other people are going through. And people need that community, if you will, to be able to get through it.
And was there one defining moment that told you had to deal with this issue?
Oh yes, I did not get diagnosed till I was 35. Average diagnosis is between teens and 20s. And then there's another bump later in life. And I've been told that the people that don't get diagnosed till they're later are either highly intelligent or highly creative. I am the creative, I'm not intelligent. I mean, I'm not anyway. Because our brains can process and adapt the ups and downs easily compared to other people. And I was diagnosed at 35, and it was because I had a major manic episode. My episodes are very spiritual. I feel great. And this is the thing about what's hard about bipolar. When you're manic, whether you're hypomanic, which is like the starting phase, or just the low part before you go delusional or whatnot, it feels good. You feel great. You have energy, you're confident, you can take on the world, and it is a great, great feeling. And then when you have a loved one come in and tell you, you're not yourself, you need to tweak this med to come back down, it's devastating. It is really hard. A lot of people don't realize that. And for me, that first episode was my first episode. So I went really high because nobody knew. We didn't know I was bipolar. We didn't know there was medicine to help fix me and keep me from going that high. So I went all the way. And then I went on heavy meds to bring me all the way down. And for some people, a lot of people, your high, your mania is rebounded with depression. So you take meds to come back to normal status, but often people rebound into depression. So for me, I was delusional high, rebounded, and fell into depression for a few months.
You know, I would think that, you know how a lot of people say, well, this person's off their meds and so forth. But I would think that that's really frustrating to have to take meds every day. And then if you're too high, you have to take a med. If you're too low, you have to take a med. And then, you know, I imagine that people probably get frustrated and just say, you know, I don't want to do this anymore.
Exactly.
Have you ran into that situation with people that you've
Fortunately, I'm very compliant. I know a lot of people struggle and are not, but I think my family is what keeps me focused. My daughter, she's witnessed 6 major episodes in her life, and she's told me, I can't handle you being hospitalized again. So that for me, even when I don't want to, I listen to them when they can see it. And sleep is a huge gauge. So my sleep cycle, if I'm not getting enough sleep, it's usually because my brain's going and I'm getting a little elevated. Whereas if I sleep too much, I'm struggling with depression. So it's it is a dance, if you will, around medicine and therapy. And I do recommend, I believe everybody should try talking to a therapist, especially in Northeast Ohio, because we have more cloudy days in Seattle, I read. Did you know that? They have more rain, but we have more cloud cover. So we have a lack of sunshine, vitamin D, you know. So I think a lot of people should address and just to check on themselves anyway. And it's very therapeutic. It feels good to be able to go and talk to someone candidly with no bias. It's just a healthy experience.
And how do you engage the community at large about the project?
Social media mostly, but I also do, I've done community workshops with kids and adults. I've done speaking engagements, and I just get awareness out there, not only about mental health, but art activism too, about using art as a voice to help make change for issues that are important to you.
And how has the project helped your own mental stability, do you think?
Creating for me is a wonderful mental outlet. It helps me process emotions, and it's very cathartic for me. And the more this is growing and the more eyes that are on it, like people will reach out to me asking advice. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I can't advise people how to treat their loved one or how to treat themselves. I can point you in directions to get help. But honestly, I hate to say it, but being a light to this many people makes me really want to be careful with my personal mental health, because I don't want to be a stumbling block for people, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. I was going to ask you, how do you balance the project and your own mental well-being?
Yeah, it's tricky because, like I said, I don't notice when I'm elevated. My family will notice before me. And this is what's kind of hard, because when I'm in my depressive side, I don't want to create. And when I do create, it's not par for my normal. You know what I mean? I don't feel like it's good enough. It's subpar. And I don't have the confidence and I don't enjoy it as much. But when I'm hypomanic, I have such creative juices going, which is why throughout history, they talk about different artists having mental illness. I mean, music and visual and performance. And I think our brains are just overflowing with ideas. It's just sometimes you get too fast and my ideas are jumping too much and I'm taking on too much on my plate. I think I can do all these things. Everyone's like, you need to calm down and slow down. I go on medication and now I have all these plates to deal with, and then I'm struggling with depression. So that is my challenge, is keeping myself mental and knowing what I can take on and keep myself in a place where I can do what I took on.
So what do you think is the biggest challenge, would you say, for someone who's facing mental illness?
Oh, well, honestly, the stigma is huge. Insurance is huge. Having enough people in the system, social workers and everything. And I'm actually currently being certified as a peer recovery specialist. And it is an amazing program, because a lot of people, for mental illness and substance use disorder, a lot of people can relate and are willing to open up to peers more than they are to a doctor.
Where do you see the Butterfly Project going in the future?
Well, my goal personally is I want it to be a visual representation for mental health, mental illness in general. There is a power behind symbolism. You know, they have studies where they show children who can't read yet pictures and they recognize it, you know, Target, McDonald's, Starbucks. They know these images. And we know the power of visual imagery because in 1979, Penny Langland tied a yellow ribbon around a tree because her husband was one of the Iranian hostage crisis. And it grew slowly. And it grew into now there's multiple yellow ribbon movements that provide support for veterans coming home and restabilizing to life. You look at the rainbow and what that's done for the LGBTQ company, if I said that right. And then the one I really think I want to rival, and I know it's possible to do it, but you look at the pink ribbon. The pink ribbon has changed and provided prevention knowledge for so many women that the death rate is gradually declining. Last year, there was over 42,000 deaths, which is good, it's coming down. But last year, there was over 50,000 suicides. There was 1.6 million suicide. So my goal is to make this just a visual image. You got October's all pink and June's all rainbow. I want May, which is Mental Health Awareness Month, to be butterflies, because I feel like the more this goes out, the more people that hear about it want to be involved, and the more people that are looking for help will get guidance. And I just would love to funnel all of that into a foundation. My dream is to have a Bipolar Butterfly Foundation where we can provide grants for other artists to do workshops and collaborations. And ideally, if it does get as big as I know it could, I would love to be able to offer grants for people going into mental health career choices. So
how can people get involved with the project?
The best way to get involved, it's on social media, on Facebook and Instagram, but my website is www.bipolar-butterflyproject.com. So you can contact me directly. There's links about if you want to talk about a sculpture or a mural, or if you want to talk about a speaking engagement. And I'm working on a shop right now to do more apparel. And there is we have a GoFundMe going, which I need to reuse because we actually had an opportunity to do a sculpture in Wade Oval, but the sponsorship didn't come through. So the financing for it. So these sculptures are really expensive, and I could not do it without the generosity of, people helping and businesses helping. And if you want to help, please contact me, because the more hands, the better it'll go. And my dream is to get one into every state, whether it's a sculpture or mural, and eventually be able to offer grants to other artists. So I just want this to go out, because it's not about me and my art anymore. It's about, it's its own thing.
Do you have any organizations that you collaborate with?
No, and I really want to. I've reached out to NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, because I would like to partner with them with proceeds from the stuff that I end up selling. And, well, Portage Path, that's not true. Portage Path Behavioral Health in Akron. I was a presenter for the 50th gala. They raised funding to put in a sculpture. I have a piece at their office, and I am a client. So Portage Path does very well work, and I love the system. So I want to help them. And Red Oak Behavioral Health meets children where they need it, and they go into schools, and they have a lot of programs, and they have 3 installations at their location. So I'm branching out with a lot of behavioral health.
How often do you work on the art projects?
I
roughly
work a lot. So if I could get paid as a full-time job, it'd be amazing, because this is my full-time passion. And I've actually thought of stepping back a couple times to get more stable work, not related to that. But every time I think about stepping back, something happens. Either someone reaches out that wants to share a story, or someone reaches out because they want to install a sculpture or a mural. That there's always something that brings me back. So I really feel like this is my path.
And what message would you give to someone struggling with mental illness, whatever the case may be?
You're not alone. You are so not alone. And it is manageable. You just have to have the courage to ask for help and to seek help. And for loved ones that are dealing with it, there are plenty of groups and programs. If you Google and search local community in-person ones and viral ones, there's an abundance of help out there. It's one of the blessings of social media. I know there's a lot of negative affecting mental health, but there's a lot of opportunity to find help.
Have you been following a lot of sports figures have been coming out?
I love hearing stories of different, you've got celebrities and athletes and influencers and politicians. Everybody's advocating. So this is a great time, because mental health is getting a lot of attention and people are opening up. And when you see these influential people talking about it, it makes people not so ashamed to talk about it themselves. So that's huge right now.
What legacy do you want the project to leave?
I just want it to really make change. There are so many terrible statistics that are growing at exponential rates. And there is one, I believe, we can make tangible change, is the average length from onset of symptoms to treatment is 11 years. 11 years. And from my experience, I know when you're not treated, you go really high and your life is a wreck. And if you don't have advocacy to get you back on track, that's how people get homeless, and substance abuse and violence and suicide. That's 11 years that if we could tweak that gap by providing courage, the stigma, and resources, and just providing help to those people, we could close that. I would love to close that gap, but I really think this is one statistic that we can change. And the thing about mental health and mental illness is there is no demographic. It affects everyone. It affects culture, sexual orientation, political affiliation, location, economic status. This is something that literally unites the world. We are all facing this war on our brains, and just the stress of the political climate and the fallout from the pandemic. Mental health fallout is way projected to outlast than the economical fallout. You have kids at every age, everybody, that was affecting everybody, what they went through. And there's so many things, like our diet and our lifestyle and our sleep cycle. All of these things affect the chemical in our brain. So mental illness is, you have receptors and transmitters in your brain. You got dopamine and serotonin and norepinephrine, and our brains are so sensitive from trauma or experience, or we weren't hugged enough, or we don't get enough socialization. There's just so many factors to mental health, which is why it's so hard to diagnose and it's so hard to treat. So people really need to have the courage, to have the help, to have the resources. And that's what I really hope the Bipolar Butterfly helps people get that.
And what are some of the symptoms that people should be looking for with loved ones or friends or so forth?
Well, bipolar, the depressive side is loss of interest, social withdrawal, just seeming down and sleeping a lot. Manic episodes are hyperactivity, not able to focus, not sleeping, and eventually having delusional, grandiose thoughts before delusion. I guess grandiose thoughts are first. So people spend money and they're hypersexual and they do all these dangerous things. And these are all kind of symptoms of something that could be wrong.
And are the symptoms the same in children as opposed to adults?
That's what's so hard. No two people are alike. Everybody's different. So again, this is one more thing that's so difficult about mental health is our personalities are different. And like I said, are environmental. So it's not just biological and genetic. It's environmental. It's from trauma. It's from dealing with unhealthy family life growing up. I mean, poverty plays into it. Illness plays into it. Grief plays into it. It's different for everybody. It is just such a rigmarole to treat and to find and to fix.
Do you do any speaking engagements? Any
have.
Events where you can highlight?
I have, and honestly, I'm very happy to continue doing it. I've spoke to groups from 10 to 300 plus. So if you're interested, in having a speaking engagement, I encourage people to contact me through my website.
Through your website,
Yes.
primarily?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, it's been a blast having you on.
Thank you.
And I've learned a lot from having you on here.
Thank you.
Thanks
I
for being on the
appreciate
show.
being on here.
I want to thank my special guest, Kimmy Henderson, for hanging out with us today on Creative Focus. So that's it, Cleveland, we're out. But remember, a true artist is not only inspired, but inspires others. I'm Cornell Calhoun III for TV 20 and Creative Focus. Until the next time becomes our time, be well, be safe.